Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Jane Malcolm and I'm responsible for External and Corporate Affairs here at the SRA. And today we're going to look at our plans for 2021. So for the first time, we're consulting on our forward planning, and this is off the back of some work we did at the end of last year and early this year when we consulted on our new corporate strategy, which will start on the 1st of November this year. We published that strategy in March this year, and of course since then we've all seen the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. We think it's going to take some time for the implications of the pandemic to be properly understood, but I think we'd all agree that they will be significant and long-lasting and are likely to affect the UK and far wider, of course. So the business plan picks up some of that, but we will very much keep it under review as we understand how the pandemic is going to affect our sector, the profession, and the people who need legal services. We've set out 6 questions in our business plan consultation, 3 on the objectives and 3 on other areas, specifically our budget that we've included in the consultation text, if you'd like to have a look at that, the principles for setting the contributions to our compensation fund, the way our board thinks about setting those contributions for the future, and finally, on whether the format of this consultation and the approach we're taking is helpful, and we're inviting people's ideas on what more we can do around that. There's lots of opportunities to feed into the consultation, this is one of them, but there are other events, online polling, and of course the traditional getting in touch with us and letting us know what you think, so please do that. We've had some queries in advance of this event and I'll pick some of those up as we go along, and there's also a couple of questions that people have been asking us as we have these types of conversations that I'll touch on. If you have any particular queries off the back of what we talk about today, can I ask you to send them through afterwards and we'll get back to everybody individually. So firstly, let's have a look at those core objectives. So I'm looking at objective 1 here. We set 3 objectives for ourselves, covering firstly high standards, absolutely our core work, so high standards for the profession and for ourselves. Second objective, looking at technology and innovation, and the third one, looking at responding to change, identifying emerging opportunities and challenges. The 3 objectives are all complementary and overlapping, and I want to be clear that access to justice and indeed all aspects of diversity are threaded all the way through our work. We've also tried in this consultation to give everyone a bit of a feel for the amount of our budget we think we'd be spending under each of the headings. So objective 1, absolutely about our core work. We think it'll take up about 92% of our budget, so the overwhelming majority. And that's very much what we heard from people when we went out to consultation on the corporate strategy. So our core work, of course, covers the major operational type of thing, authorization and licensing, overseeing education and training, enforcing our standards and managing the compensation fund. But there's also a whole range of regulatory projects and work that fits really firmly into this category. I've already mentioned overseeing education and training. SQE is part of that, but not the entirety of that. But we've been talking for a long time now, about 10 years, about changing the education and training requirements in the sector. Widespread recognition that current arrangements are increasingly becoming out of date and run the risk of inconsistent standards. So we're introducing a new way of qualifying to be a solicitor that will ensure that everyone meets the same high consistent standards at point of entry, and also gives everyone from every background a really fair chance of qualifying as a solicitor by taking the same rigorous examination. There's lots of detail on this on our website, and I mean lots of detail, so please do have a look. Our application to make these changes is currently with the LSB. We expect the first exam sittings to be around about November 2021, and we had a query in advance about the application timing to sit those exams. So we haven't said when applications will open to sit that first set of exams, but it will be in summer of 2021. And of course, we'll be letting everybody know about the dates nearer the time. What we are being clear about is that applications, bookings to sit that exam will close 8 weeks before the exams to make sure that there's time to make all the proper arrangements. Part of education and training is also ensuring that people stay up to date and fit to practice throughout their careers. And we'll be doing more to look at that. We've already changed the CPD arrangements, as I think the profession is widely aware, to move away from that outdated counting of hours to something that is much more around professional reflection, practice and ownership of where you need to find out more and get better at particular areas. We're going to be doing more to support people when they have higher rights of advocacy, and we're also looking at the police station representatives assurance scheme. So more to do on those areas and more to talk about over the years to come. In this area, we have, of course, got the EU exit, Brexit, and our priority there is really around working with government and others to make sure that there's a really smooth transition for consumers, but also, of course, for the profession. Wales, we've mentioned on this slide here, so about 4% of the firms we regulate tell us that they're headquartered in Wales, and of course many more firms also work in Wales and many solicitors do. The landscape in Wales is changing. We're working closely with colleagues on that and with the Welsh Government and others, and we think it's timely for us to have a presence in Wales to make sure that we can properly support the profession and the users of legal services in Wales. And as part of that, we've made the commitment to providing the Solicitors Qualifying Examination in Welsh. So really key area of work for us there. There's more under Objective 1, as you would expect. So looking at our next slide, you can see there that AML, anti-money laundering, is really key. We all know that money laundering funds crime, serious crime like people trafficking and drug trafficking, but also can fund terrorism. So we have a shared commitment as a supervisor, as a anti-money laundering supervisor, to work with firms and the profession to make sure that our sector does everything it can to prevent money laundering coming into our world. Very topical, very high profile, global priority. We'll be doing more on this next year, not least as new requirements come in. We need to embed those on the profession, in the profession. Thinking of new requirements, we'll also be looking at the standards and regulations that we brought in at the end of last year, November 2019, and understanding what sort of a difference they're beginning to make. As part of that, our priority will be evaluating the requirements that we've placed on firms to publish more information about their prices and their services, and to use the clickable logo that allows the users of legal services to be confident that the firm that they're looking at using brings with it the protections of a fully regulated firm in terms of insurance, access to the compensation fund, and of course adherence to the high standards that we set and that the public expect. We'll be working with the CMA and others on that, mindful that the Competition and Markets Authority came and reviewed our sector in 2016 and came up with some recommendations around helping people to be confident that they could find the right legal service for them. We're also going to be looking at the profile of solicitors in our enforcement processes as part of our wider equality, diversity and inclusion work. We already collect a huge amount of data about the diversity of the profession and play that back. This diversity in the profession is really key for all of us, and it's part of supporting access to justice. We know that diverse businesses make good decisions, diverse businesses are better businesses, and we also know that it's important for the profession to reflect the community it serves. We have in the past looked at the profile of the profession, as I say, in all our processes and our enforcement processes, and we're doing that again. And it is our intention, and the plan sets out clearly, to work with others on research to understand why it should be that we find different amounts of people from different parts of the profession being reported to us, particularly solicitors from the Black, Asian and minority ethnic community, and indeed going through our processes and being sanctioned. So we want to understand what's happening that is making that the case, and of course look at what can be done about it. Finally, under this objective, we also want to make sure that we are continuously improving. We've made a range of efficiencies over the years. We're introducing new IT. Many of you will have seen the new look MySRA. We have more of that to do, and that will bring efficiencies with it. We've absorbed over 5 million of costs in the last 5 years, and we're hoping that as we go through the years of our corporate strategy, we will be able to do everything we can to keep costs as low as possible for the profession. As I said, about 92% of our budget will go on this absolutely core objective. We have 2 other objectives. Firstly, we have one on technology and innovation. And one of the learning things from COVID-19, I think, has been how important technology has proved for us all as we go about our daily jobs and as firms, continue to operate. But also really key for the users of legal services and consumers in general, and we're all consumers, to actually access the services that we're looking for. So it's timely to do more on this as a regulator, building on the work that we've done over the last 2 years, for example with the Regulators Pioneer Fund, where our legal access challenge ensured that about £500,000 went to organisations developing really important technology that could help people in need to be supported with legal advice and services. So something that we felt was really helpful and we need to do more of. There's a lot going on in this space, of course, so we see that year 2021 as an opportunity to really understand what's happening and where we can add value, increase our understanding. And as part of that, we want to develop guidance for the profession. Lots of people in the profession are talking to us about how they need help in understanding the best way of using technology and indeed finding the right technology for them. So we'll be producing material that we think will help people on that. Looking more widely, we need to review our SRA Innovate space. This is what a lot of people refer to as a sandbox. We've had it on the go for a few years now. It's a way of ensuring that firms can try new approaches to providing services, working with us to make sure that they can do that safely as a regulated firm, tried and tested. We're keen to ensure that more people use that service and that we improve it as we go along. So we'll be keeping that under review. Lots of careful thought as well in this area, because we know that the use of technology and indeed wider innovation can often go across boundaries and jurisdictions, and that can present regulatory challenges that we need to think through really carefully. We think about 4% of our budget in 2021 will be spent on taking this objective forward, and that it will set the platform for our work in this area for the following 2 years. Looking at objective 3, this is one that I think, if anything, has become all the more topical. So we envisaged this objective as anticipating and responding to change, identifying opportunities and challenges. And of course, COVID-19 has just shown us how important that is. So we want to be fleet of foot and flexible, and try and do what we can to work with others where we know there's things happening that we need that kind of collaborative approach to. And examples of where we've done that in the past might be the sector-wide discussion around the Me Too movement and the renewed work on NDAs and understanding harassment in the workplace. So more to do on that one. We want to complement that with some other topical areas, including providing more resources helping asylum seekers and people who want to immigrate into the country to understand what their rights are and what the processes are. So again, really, really topical and part of our wider work on public legal education. Public legal education is a key regulatory objective for all regulators, and I know something that many firms and the profession take a really active interest in and provide useful resources on. We do a lot through Legal Choices, which is a joint regulatory platform helping people with independent authoritative information about the legal sector and how they can navigate it to find the services and the help that they need. But we want to do more. So we're giving that thought at the moment and we'll develop that area. And perhaps finally in this area, just to highlight that one of the key issues that we want to have a look at is properly understanding the patterns of attainment in training and education. So every year we publish information on the performance of candidates for a whole range of education and training assessments and examinations. And they consistently show differential attainment, particularly for people from a Black, Asian, minority ethnic background. And that pattern is seen widely across higher education and professional assessments. We, of course, want SQE to be as fair by design as it can be, and we think the design that we've put forward is absolutely right for that. But we anticipate, and we've been very public about anticipating, that that pattern of attainment may well continue into the future. So we want to look into that and try and understand why it is that that's happening and work with others to see what we can collectively do to make a real difference on that key and difficult and challenging area. So be hearing more from us on that one. Having walked through those 3 key objectives, I'd like to just pick up a couple of queries that we've been picking up as we've been having these conversations with people. So the key question that we're being asked is, what are we doing differently in the light of COVID-19? We've already been looking at that. It's a really difficult issue. Going back to where I started, we don't fully understand what the implications of the pandemic will be. And of course, I think we're all looking ahead to see what winter will bring. What we have been doing is working closely with the Law Society and with the profession to understand what's happening at the moment. And we've published a wide range of Q&A on our website. Please have a look, that tackle individual areas and questions that people have raised with us. And we've also made some changes in how we work, for example, around renewal of professional indemnity insurance, for example, but also around how people undertake assessments and examinations. All that information is up there, and we're giving careful consideration to other suggestions of what more we need to do. And one area in particular is we've been asked about the impact on the SQE, and we've had quite a few universities saying they'd like more time to prepare for the introduction of SQE and the types of courses that will support people to go through to SQE. So we've listened to what they've said, and we've made changes that again are up on our website, so that students going through university and starting a course up until the 31st of December 2021 will have the choice of qualifying through the SQE or through the old routes to qualification. So we're keeping all of that under review, but that significant change to the transitional arrangements has very much been in the light of the pandemic and in what the universities and higher education are saying to us. We'll keep that absolutely under review, and we also think that, as I've mentioned, COVID will make a big impact on technology, and we'll feed that into that second objective that I talked about. What we absolutely can't do is change the standards that we set. We think that at a time of uncertainty and challenge, the high professional standards that we expect are all the more important. The public needs to have confidence in the legal profession and in firms, and changing standards just not appropriate. It's been a good question to ask, but our view is very clear on this, and it's one of the drivers around introducing SQE as well, of course, so that we can have that real confidence. I'm sure people will have lots of other questions. As I said at the beginning, very, very keen to hear from you if you can send us your questions after this event. And also have a look at all those other ways of getting involved, not just in this consultation, but in any future consultations. We've got quite a lot of online polling, I think, out there, so there's opportunities for making quick responses to us if you don't have the time, and I know how busy everyone is, to fill in a full response to us on those 6 questions that I talked us through at the beginning of my presentation. But that ends what I'm going to say today. It's quite a short consultation. It's nice and easy to read. Please take time to do so, and we're really looking forward to hearing from you. Thank you.